4, that is nothing but levels of qualification. So as we mentioned earlier, so we are drafting a written practice based on your recommended practice number SMT-TC-1A. So that document will clearly mentions the requirements for training, experience and examinations. So once the candidate completes all these three, then we can issue the certificate. But how many levels of qualification so we can allowed to issue the certificates? So as you are already in the entity field, so you are already aware of the level 2 certificates, level 3 certificates. So the same things they mention here. So we are totally allowed to issue the certificates in three levels of qualification, three basic levels, that is nothing but level 1, level 2 and level 3. And if you don't want to go for a full length training, as we discussed earlier, like thickness gauging, so you don't want to give them 80 hours of training, you just want to make use of them only for thickness gauging, only for limited services. So in that case you can go for limited level 2. Okay, so the first point, there are total three basic levels of qualification. So this is one important exam question. They always used to ask one question on this. As per SNTTC 1A, how many levels of qualifications are allowed? Minimum you need to cover level 1, level 2, level 3. So if you are drafting a written practice, you must mention three basic levels of qualification in your written practice. You should not say directly we'll give level 2 and why directly we'll go over level 3, and in our written practice we only mention level 2 or level 3. That is not acceptable. You need to clearly mention level 1, level 2 and level 3. If you want, you can add any other things like limited level 2, limited level 3, or limited level 1, or even level half, level 4. If you want to put any other thing, you can put. That is your requirements. But you must cover at least three levels of qualification. That is nothing but level 1, level 2 and level 3. So the employer may also subdivide these levels of for a situation where additional levels are deemed necessary for specific skills and responsibilities. For example, your company having a projects on UT, and some people they just doing only ultrasonic thickness gauging, UTG, and some people do only lamination testing, and some people do only PAUT, and some do all in one, all techniques like PAUT, TOFD, basic UT. So in this case what you can do, so you can just issue a limited level 2 certificate for UTG, because it requires very less training and less experience, and you can just train them only for thickness gauging. Any thickness gauging jobs you can send these technicians to do that particular job. Lamination also same thing, but when you got a PAUT jobs, you can send advanced NDT, advanced UT technicians to that particular PAUT job. Here the PAUT maybe you need to train at least 120 hours, and normal UT so maybe 80 hours. So here UTG maybe just 20 hours, and this UTL also maybe another 20 hours. So what this trying to shows if you are going for limited level 2 certification, the requirements for training and experience is getting lower. So you can easily create the certification and you can utilize a less skilled worker. You can plan for limited certification. So it all depends on your company needs. Suppose sometime if your company don't have all these technicians, or this POT technician only will do everything, he will go for normal UT, and he also do the lamination testing, bond testing, thickness gauging, everything he can do. So you can use him as a multi technician. So there shouldn't be any issues with that. So it all depends on your company needs. That's why they clearly saying the employer means the company may subdivide. May means optional, so subdivide these levels for situations where additional levels are deemed necessary for specific skills and responsibilities. For example, if I see in another company, Y company, so they just only use UT technicians, and all these UC technicians also have a PAUT and TOFD everything. So they don't want to cover any other thing separately. So any technician they will send them for UT level 2 course, PAUT course and TOFD course. So if they got any UT, PAUT, TOFD jobs, so they will send any one of the technician. So they don't have any like categorized things, because the company had that kind of policy, they will use that. But here, so they have a lot of people working, and some people are related relatives of the owner, so they don't want to do any difficult jobs, so they'll do simple jobs. So in that case they'll subdivide as a limited level 2. So it all depends on your company needs. Here also they will ask one more question. Some papers they will ask a very straightforward question on this. Is it possible to subdivide the levels of qualification as per SMTC1? Yes, we can subdivide based on the needs of your employer. Total how many levels of qualification? minimum. So you need to cover level 1, level 2, level 3. Why I am stressing this one? Because if you've seen CP 189, they clearly mentioned around 6 levels of qualification. So here we have only 3 levels, but in CP 189 we have 6 levels. What are the other 3? So you have one more is a limited level 2, and the fifth one is a trainee. Trainee also considered as a level of qualification, meaning trainee also you need to issue a certificate. So like something like apprentice kind of thing. Why? Because if you see in some MNC companies, even though the candidate as a joined as apprentice or maybe as a fresher or maybe a project intern, so what they'll do, they will issue the ID card, they'll give the PPE, they'll ask them to wear some coveralls. So they will like designate them to cover certain things. So in that case, like easily you can discriminate. Okay, this guy is a trainee, this guy is a level 1, this guy is a level 2. So you have like a clear discrimination. And also the last one more level is a entity instructor. So for trainer also you need to issue the certificate saying that you qualified him, you verified his experience, academic background, everything, then you appointed him as an entity instructor. So that's why CP 189 is a more clear cut and more stringent. But here they didn't mention anything about instructor, anyone can teach. So they didn't specify exactly what are the qualifications required for trainer. So that's why the problem with SNTC1 is they can use anyone as a trainer. But if you raise this question to ASNT, so they'll say it is dependent on your company needs. If you want to use a proper trainer, you can write in your written practice. No one is stopping you. So that kind of response they will give it. Okay, so knowledge, skill, and attitude. So the highest level of qualification is level 3. So the second highest level is level 2, and the third one is level 1. Okay, so now we will discuss one by one. And as we seen in section 5, they clearly mention the written practice should describe the levels of responsibilities of each qualification. So you need to clearly address in your written practice. So what level 1 is going to do, and what level 2 is doing, and what is the main roles and responsibilities of level 3. So you must clearly address in your written practice. So in the same way, if you seen any other people involved with your certification activities like document controller, HR, and your manager, because he's signing the certificates as a certifying authority. Okay, so all those people who are all involved with your certification activities, you can list their names, their designation, and you can clearly mention their roles and responsibilities, because all they are connected with your certification process. So that is what the requirement as per section 5. Okay, so here like while in the process of being initially trained, like first time you are giving the training like freshers. So if you just recruited them, then you call with a name as a trainee. So trainee is not a qualification here, but in CP 189 trainee is also will get a certificate like a ID card kind of thing. If you just imagine MNC company, software company, fresher also they'll get ID card, right? So the same concept applies here in CP 189. So they will give a qualification tag, but here trainee is just a normal person who is not having any certification, so we cannot treat him as a qualification. So why? Because the trainee is just a fresher and he don't know anything, and he started learning something from the certified individuals. A trainee should always work with a certified individual. So most of the time we always ask him to work under level 2 or level 3. Why we cannot allow him to work under level 1? He can work, but he is not supposed to entirely dependent on level 1, because level 1 is also not knowing the things fully. Level 2 means he can do everything independently. So if you ask something to level 2, he will do from the beginning to the end, and he will generate a report. But level 1 is like not fully matured enough to complete the task. So you can say like you don't know everything in detail, especially the interpretation and evaluation. He can do the task, but coming to the conclusion whether accept or reject, he will get some confusion. But when you ask level 2, he will say exactly yes or no. So he will say as per this procedure we are accepting, as per this procedure we are rejecting. Same like your COVID-19 report, positive or negative. So he will say yes or no. But if you see the level 1, so they will do the test, but there will be some confusion in the report. So that's why the trainee should not independently conduct, interpret, evaluate, or report the test results of any entity method, because he is in the learning stage. He is not supposed to do anything independently. Best example, if you join a company, so how the HR will treat you. Even though you try to take a photocopy, when you go to the photocopier machine, she will shout at you. Why? Because you are a fresher, you are a trainee. So she will scold at you, who asked you to take the printout, how you know the operate, how you got the details to operate this equipment. Even though you know this is a simple task, taking a printout or taking a photocopy, but they won't allow you to do all those things because you are not independent, meaning you are not allowed to do the task independently. So that's why when you are in a stage of training, you just need to follow the instructions of level 2 and level 3 or any other manager. So you are not supposed to do anything independently. If someone asks you to do that, then you need to do that. So because you are in the learning stage. So here also there is a chance of getting one question. So those not having any certificate, so we can call them with the name trainee. Trainee always should work under certified individuals. So he can be a level 1, level 2 or level 3, but the preference is given to level 2 and level 3 because level 2 and level 3 had a complete idea of performing the entity task. Now we can check one by one. So what I'll do, I'll start with level 2 so that you can easily understand level 1 responsibilities, and also you can easily understand level 3 responsibilities, because level 2 is in the middle. If anything go below that, we call it as a level 1. Anything above level 2, we call it as level 3. And as you are all attending this course as a level 2 experience level 2, so you are more familiar with the level 2 responsibilities. So that's why I'll just go with the level 2 first. So for this level 2 responsibilities, just imagine one of your friend who is doing UT. So just imagine any one of your ultrasonic testing level 2 friend. So what exactly is doing? Just recall then same points they mentioned here. So any entity level 2 individual should have sufficient knowledge. Should means recommended. Recommended to have sufficient technical knowledge and skill. Knowledge means theoretical part. For example, he is doing ultrasonic testing, so he should understand how this ultrasonic testing works, how to do the calculations, how to do the interpretation evaluation. All those things comes under knowledge. Skill means he need to do practical. So he need to scan and he need to collect the data. He need to do all the depth calculations, whatever the thing, and he also need to project the data. He need to come up with a final report. That is what a skill. Skill means related with the practical, and knowledge means related with the theory part or procedure. Okay. First thing what he will do. So when he go to site, so immediately he will go to his container and he will set up the equipment and he will do the calibrations. So if you just recall, so what he will do, he will just start switch on his equipment and he will do all the time based linearity, vertical linearity, the settings, and he also draw the DAC. So he will try to do the settings to start his scanning at the site. So he will verify all those things. Once everything is done, then he will go to the site and he will start collecting the data. So when he start scanning, right, what happens? So he used to get some signals on the screen. So when the signal exceeding the DAC line, then he will start interpreting. Then he will start thinking why the signal is coming. So from where it is coming. Then he will use a scale. Then he will do some calculations. Then he will come to know, okay, this signal is coming from the lack of fusion zone, like fusion zone. So then he will conclude, okay, this is LOF. Or sometime if the signal is coming from the back wall, then he will ignore. So this process is called as the interpretation process. Just when you are starting interrogating why this one is coming, from where it is coming. So all these process we call as a interpretation process. Then once you concluded, like, okay, this is coming from the lack of fusion. So once you concluded that, then you need to check with your acceptance criteria. So whether you accept it or reject it. So if it is within the limits, you can accept it. If it is exceeding the limits, then you reject. For example, if you check your procedure, the procedure says LOF you can accept up to 6 mm, but when you measure, it is already 10 mm. So you must reject it. Then in the report you will mention it as a reject. Then you will prepare a report with the sketch and all the details, right? So that is what we call as interpretation and evaluation. Why the level 2 need to do this one? Because he is the one preparing the report, he is the one giving the final report. Just imagine any medical diagnostic center, if you go for a blood test or if you go for any urine test or any COVID test, so what you will expect at the end? A final report with a clear conclusion, yes or no. If you have any doubts in that report, if you contact that administrator, that particular lab technician, he will explain you very clearly everything, because he is a senior most lab technician, or he is a certified to do that. The same kind of expectations you can face with your client, because you also like doing a testing, so they are doing on the patients, but you are doing on the metals. The only difference is they call as a doctors, we are like inspectors. That's only the difference. They'll do repairs also, they'll do surgery, but we are not doing that. We are giving the task to the vendors. We are also like doctors to the metals, not a mental doctors, we are like metal doctors. Okay, we are just scanning without damaging the part, and we are telling what was the problem, so like a diagnostic center kind of thing. So being a level 2, so your main responsibility involves here, so you must interpret and you come to a conclusion. So that's why whenever you are dealing with a level 2, so these two are very important, interpretation and evolution. So you must come up with a report with a clear conclusion, yes or no, and then you need to sign. When you sign, so you are committed to that report, and you need to be answerable. If anything goes wrong, you need to be answerable. Even your boss also will say, I don't know anything about NDT, my technician did this. When you go to a level 3 also, he also will tell, so my level 3 only did this, I am not aware of this. He also will escape. So that's why the level 2 is the main person in any NDT method. Most of the NDT companies are surviving based on these NDT level 2 technicians. Okay, so should also be able to organize and report the results of the NDT test. So what is the meaning of organize and report? Same like if you go for a package, so what they do, they'll give the medical report containing blood test, sugar test, chest x-ray, so many things they'll compile, and they'll give a summary, and they will tell what is within the limits and what is acceptable, what is rejectable. Same way here also, when you went to the site, so the client may give you 10 joints. Out of 10, maybe you completed 10, 9, one is not having any staging, or maybe the weld is not complete, or maybe that is a fillet weld, you cannot do 100% UT, or out of 9 welds, maybe 6 acceptable, 3 rejectable, but a rejectable one, the client asking the repair report. So you need to compile all these things. At any time, if anyone asks you, you should able to give the status, very clear status, yes, this many accept, this many reject, so this many pending. So you can give a clear report to the client. So that is what they're saying, should able to organize and report the results of NDT tests, and should be thoroughly familiar with the scope and limitations of the method for which qualified. For example, they given the job request with ultrasonic testing. Okay, so they just ask you to do the lamination testing and angle beam testing, but after 2 days the client approach you and asking you for PUT report. But when you see the request clearly saying only basic ultrasonic testing, but the client expecting PUT report also. But when you check with your company, the company said they didn't have any quotation or any works order for that POT jobs. So it is not within that scope. So in that case, what you need to learn. So I'm a just basic UT technician. My company asked me to do only UT. So I'll do only UT. And in that, I'll just do only angle beam testing. I'm not a POT technician. I don't know anything about POT. So you must have a clear cut idea on the scope. And if any butt weld joints, so you can do the basic UT. But if they given you for example, if they given you a spot weld, or if they given you any tack weld and they asking you to do the UT, so how you can do that? If they given you fillet weld, we cannot do 100% UT, but the client is chasing you, then you can technically explain him, so this particular joints we cannot do UT, we can recommend PT or MT. You can give that suggestions. And also you need to tell like you have that limitations, you do not have any PUT certificate, you cannot perform that. So being a UT level 2 technician, so you should aware of your competence, and you should tell what is your scope and limitation. Okay, same like driving driver. For example, if someone joined as a driver, he know how to drive manual car, manual gears, other things, he don't know automatic car, and he don't know how to drive a crane or forklift. But the employer comes and asks him to operate a forklift or to operate a crane. How we can do that? He will tell, no, I am only just a manual car driver. Even I don't know automatic equipments, or even I'm not having any certificate for operating the trucks or any like cranes. So that is the thing the technician should aware. He should not take any responsibilities beyond his capability, because he is just certified to only the butt welds, only normal simple plates. But if you see the certification schemes like PCN, so they have 3.1 butt welds, plates, 3.2 pipes, 3.7 T joint, 3.8 nodes, nozzle. So they have different certification numbers or schemes, because it's like something like similar to a business model. So they'll put all these things, and they'll increase the price, and separate exams. So every exam you need to pay the money. So these are all like, sometime for example you are well versed with weldment inspection, but the next day when you got a job in aerospace industry, so when you went there, they given you a composite material and they ask you to do ultrasonic testing on that. So you don't know anything about composite materials, you never did any single job with composites, then what you will tell? So I don't know anything. So that is what the familiarity with the scope and limitations. Then next should also exercise the assigned responsibility for on-the-job training, that is nothing but OJT, and guidance of trainees and NDT level 1 personnel. So when you are on the road, so you need to be like a experienced lorry driver. So you must train your cleaners, nothing but your helpers, assistant drivers. So if you see the lorry driver and cleaner concept, so that is the best example of OJT. So what this guy will do, whenever he get a chance, the cleaner will ask this guy, so I want to drive this, I want to learn. Then this guy will give a chance, and they will show all the tactics, everything. So one fine day, this cleaner will become an expert driver. Right. So the same thing applies here for NDT also. So you need to give the proper training on the job, so that they can beat or they can cross you, right? Sometimes what happens, like one fine day, this guy will try to work for low salary, and when you ask for the increment, the company will try to relieve you. So this is sometimes possible with level 2 technicians cases, because when the technician got more experience, he expects some increments, all these things. By the time the level 1 will become level 2, so he's ready to work for low salaries, or maybe the management will say, okay, temporarily I will give this much, once this guy leave the company, then I will promote you to the level 2 and I'll give you high salary. Or sometimes they'll bring a fresher inside and they will give the experienced technician. But you need to observe very carefully. So the pillars of the company are nothing but NDT level 2 technicians. If any company, NDT company, are having a strong NDT level 2 technicians, so they can be always in a good position and in a good profitable manner, right? Okay, so these are the few points about level 2. So they used to ask one question on this interpretation and evaluation. Main responsibility is this interpretation and evaluation only done by level 2. That's why when you see in any procedures, so most of the time they will clearly mention interpretation and evaluation done by either level 2 or level 3. Then coming to the level 1, so level 1 is a one step down. So you can see here the level 1 technician should have a sufficient technical knowledge and skill to qualify to perform specific standardization. Specific means you need to clearly instruct. For example, if you have an helper with you, so he's a level 1 technician, so what you can do, you can ask him to do the calibration. You can just give a V1 block and you ask him to do the probe angle check, and also do the time based linearity or resolution check, or you can ask him to draw the DAC. So these are the basic things you can ask him, and also you can ask him to do a specific NDT. For example, you just ask him to do the base metal check with a 0 degree probe, or you can ask him to measure what is the thickness, or maybe one 70 degree probe you ask him to scan, and remaining 45 and 60 degree you are scanning. So some portions you can assign to him. That is what we call as a specific NDT. So perform specific evaluations for acceptance or rejection determination according to the written instructions. So like roughly, for example, he can do a lamination check by using a 0 degree probe. He will check lamination. If he notice, for example, if this is a plate, so he notice a very big size lamination, so he can reject directly, because your procedure says any lamination directly reject, but he got a very bigger size lamination, directly rejected, and then he will inform you. Then what you will do, you will scan one more time, you will confirm that. Same like your airport security. So you ask that security normal level 1 technicians to screen the bags. If they found some guns inside the bag, what they'll do, immediately they'll reject. If they found lighters, all these things, immediately they take out and they throw in the dustbin. They don't call to the managers, or they don't inform to other people. Directly they will take the lighter out and they throw in the dustbin. Simple. That kind of instructions or specific instructions you can assign to them. So that's what they're saying here. So they can do some kind of evaluations like accept or reject, so based on your written instructions, and record all these results when they throw in something, when they notice something. So they used to maintain some logbook, because if something goes wrong, at least they can maintain all these evidences. So the entity level 1 should always receive the necessary instruction and supervision from a certified level 2 or level 3. You see here, level 1 always need to work under level 2 or level 3. Why he cannot work with level 1? So you cannot work with your roommate or your colleague, because your colleague also don't know much, you also don't know much. So how you can gain more experience? Your boss always should be one step higher than you. For example, your boss getting lesser salary than you, then how you can treat him? You will not give that much respect, right? When your boss is getting higher salary than you, when he is in a higher position, when he got more respect and more salary from your company, then you can give a respect to him. So the same thing applies here. So you always need to work under qualified supervision, meaning your supervisor must be highly qualified than you. Clear? So here the keyword is a specific. So they used to ask one question on this. So what is the main responsibilities of level 1? So just go to this keyword specific. When you see the options with a specific keyword, so that is a 99.9% will be the answer. They always ask one question on this. So we see in level 2. Then the next one is a level 3. So level 3 individual. You see, one thing I don't really understand, why they put a should. These are all mandatory responsibilities of level 1, level 2 and level 3. So level 3 must know interpretation and evaluation. Level 2 must perform this OJT. Level 2 must interpret and evaluate and finally sign the report. These are all like mandatory requirements for any company for level 1, level 2, level 3 qualification. But here they just are giving a recommendations, should only, because it's a recommended practice. So if you raise that question, then they'll say no, in your written practice you can put shall. So that is what occurred with CP189. If you go and check with the CP189, they clearly mention shall. So the level 3 shall have sufficient knowledge, the level 2 shall have this skill and knowledge. So that's why very less companies implementing CP189, because most of the company owners, they want shortcuts. They don't want to follow all these requirements, stringent requirements. They always find the loopholes, and they try to abuse, not misusing, abusing the SMTC 1 year requirement. But at the end they'll try to put a blame on the level 3, saying that your level 3 only doing all these things. But if you just imagine, who is the ultimate beneficiary? The company only the beneficiary. When the level 3 inform the owner also, he just ignore. He'll say no, I want this on this time. So he'll try to influence, or he'll try to pressurize all the level 2 and level 3 technicians. So that's the problem with the current entity companies. They don't have patience, and they don't have that much like a quality oriented mindset to provide the necessary resources. Best example, if you ask your technician to stay with you for 1 day or 1 week to complete the training, they'll say no, they lose the production, they lose the profits, so they don't want to allow them for one whole week. For example, you ask them to stay for at least 40 hours, but this guy will say take only 10 hours, and that one also after the work hours. So the technicians will come in the night, they'll stay 2 hours in your office, then you will give the training. And those people, when you are teaching, they'll fall asleep because already worked at site. So these are the situations that we noticed in the current entity markets. So that's a problem with the current entity industry. We need to emphasize the requirements of all these entity, and also we need to elevate the importance of entity and the training other things, because it directly impacts the quality. Then the next one, so level 3. So level 3 is the highest level of qualification. So if you've seen the level 3, so most of the places is ing. So developing, qualify, qualifying, approving, training, conducting, certifying, qualifying, training, assessing, supporting, supervising. So everywhere you put ing, so that exactly apps to level 3. So level 3 means, so 3 letters ing, so you just attach ing, so it will exactly matches with the level 3 responsibilities. And I used to say this guy is a king in the entity company because he is the ultimate person handling all the entity related activities and responsibilities. He is the highest level of qualification. Right, so the first one, paperwork. Most of the time this guy do paperwork which will not generate money directly. Indirectly it will generate money. If the company got a project, so they need a project procedure, so they need to attend the meetings, so they need to get approval from the clients, they need to arrange everything for the mock-ups, demonstrations, reporting, everything. But at the end, these paperwork and these activities will not generate money directly. But when you see the technician, they'll go to the site, he'll bring the timesheet. Then the company thinks, okay, the level 2 is working nicely at site and is getting the money, is making money. But level 3 sitting at office, handling only audits, communicating with the client, sending emails to the client, so training the technicians, submitting all the documents, and verifying the reports. So many things, all the paperwork he doing, but which is not giving any timesheet. But by submitting all these paperwork, then only we are claiming the money from the client. So the basic documentation work, everything is done by the level 3 only. But the company owners will not recognize, or even though they know all these things, but they'll try to demotivate, because if they appreciate, they need to give a salary, high salaries, all these things. Okay. Okay, so then next, establishing and approving that. First one is qualifying the procedures. For example, you got a project, so the client don't know anything about entity, but he know what are the requirements as per the construction code. He will just tell, okay, this is my requirements, but he don't know anything in depth. So what level 3 will do, based on that requirements, he will develop the procedure and he will show the demonstration to the client. He will qualify that procedure, and finally he will get all the approvals from the client, from the authorizing bodies, or from the government regulations. So everywhere they will get all the approvals, and finally we start using that procedure for that particular project. So it's a paperwork. Then second one, establishing and approving NDT techniques. For example, if you take ultrasonic testing, so what happens, sometimes your procedure covers only the butt welds, but suddenly they will give you a T joint, or they will give you a high thickness joint, so your procedure not working. So then you need to raise a technical query, then again you draft a separate technique sheet, and you need to talk to that QC team, and finally you get approval for that particular technique sheet. Sometime any special jobs comes, so the level 3 again need to work from the scratch, especially if you are dealing with the PUT techniques. So initially they will submit some technique sheets, they will accept, but when they go to site, the situation changes, so he may need to work out on other drawings and other joints. So that is what the level 3 will work out on these things, and again he will approve all the techniques. Approving means he need to justify whether that particular technique works or not, whether that particular procedure is validated or not. And then again interpreting code, standards, specifications, and procedure. For example, the next day you got a project from aerospace company, so the Airbus company, they given their own entity manual, so they'll say you must use only their procedures, they are not accepting any of your company procedures. So in that case, what you need to do, first of all you need to take that procedures and you need to read, you need to digest, and you need to get clarity from that Airbus company level 3. Then again you need to train your technicians, again if they conduct any exams, so you need to train your technicians and get all the approvals. Finally your technicians will go there and perform the job. So these are, there are so many activities in between. It's not like simply they give the procedure blindly, your technician doing. There is no such kind of things, because the technicians are not like a Superman or like a Batman kind of thing, so they can't understand everything. So they technically, they are not that much well versed, so you must train them, you must teach them what exactly the requirements. If we don't teach them, what happens, they just follow their own style. For example, they are just driving a manual car, but you purchased an automatic car, semi-auto, so you need to teach them how to use that. At least you need to brief them, then they can nicely use that car. Otherwise they will try to handle it in a manual way, and they may spoil that. and your technician, your client also sometimes can take the photos, videos, and tell, okay, your technician's not up to the mark. They are not following my procedures. They are following some other procedures. Sometimes they, your technicians, in the absence of supervision, they will do their own shortcuts. So that's why it's very important that you must brief them from one project to another project. So every project, so you need to check all the requirements and you need to brief your technicians. You need to conduct all these paperwork, documentation, everything. But to your boss, so it clearly shows that you are not generating any money. Moreover, you are wasting time on the paperwork. So he may think that way. So that's why it is always very important to promote yourself. So always try to put a CC to your boss and try to, whenever you see any escalating emails, all these things, try to put all the big shots inside your email, like your CEO, your director, your manager, your HR, everyone put inside. Then they will come to know, okay, what is happening around this particular project, especially the technical point of view. They can understand all these things. Otherwise they simply say the level 3 is sitting in the company and collecting the salary. So designating the particular entity, method, techniques, and procedure to be used, especially if you are dealing with any sensitive projects like aerospace projects or any nuclear projects. So sometimes the client also may not have a good idea of which methods need to use, because of special materials, special grades. First time they are doing fabrication with that particular materials, so they don't know which entity method works. If it is a special grade material, sometime like stainless steel, duplex steel, so maybe you need to do a phased array. So you may say dual matrix array probes or some kind of special probes you need to design. So these are all like the responsibilities of level 3, designating the particular entity, method, technique, and procedures to be used. Sometime your technician call you and ask which procedure we need to use. This is the first time I'm doing this kind of job. So when they ask for the suggestion, so you need to reply, right? And responsible for the entity operations for which qualified and assigned. If something went wrong, so you are the one need to take the responsibility. If your UT technician did something wrong, your client caught with some evidences, then you are the one answerable. So they will call the level 3. You bring your level 3. I want to explanation from your level 3. So sometime like some kind of technical issues, troubleshooting, and some type of compliance complaint. So all these things need to be handled by the level 3 only. And then interpreting and evaluating the results in terms of existing core standards and specification, especially when you are dealing with the film interpretation. So your level 2 technician say reject, but client don't want to reject it. Client want to accept that component. So what happens, there will be some heated arguments between your technician and client. So immediately the client will call you, okay, as a level 3 you come down here and you decide. I just want to listen only level 3 only. So sometimes these kind of situations arises. So when the level 3 go down, so he will check and he will say acceptable, because as per code it is acceptable, but your level 2 is saying reject. Why? Because based on the experience. So based on the previous experience and it's a border case, so then you need to start convincing your client saying that okay, this is a border case, we should not go for the border cases. If in case like the next day if the component fail, then everyone will get trouble. So as we are maintaining highest quality, so please try to do repair. So safe side, my technician is giving a suggestion to reject. So like you can come to some compromise conditions or decisions, or sometime maybe if your technician is wrong, then you can say okay, this is wrong and this is acceptable. You can brief the technicians again. So these are all like a troubleshooting activities or meetings, the communication with the client, everything handled by the level 3. So these are all paperworks. And what extra activities or what extra knowledge the level 3 should have. So should have a sufficient practical background in applicable materials. Why they need to have a background? For example, today you got a project in oil and gas industry, so you are dealing with pipelines and boilers. Then after 1 week you got a project in aerospace industry, so there you need to inspect the engine components, turbine blades, composite materials, totally different. So next month you have a project with a construction, like you are involved with like a bridge construction with cement structures. So you need to use a different techniques. So what they're trying to say here, like based on your project needs, based on your company scope of works, so you need to upgrade yourself to different type of materials, fabrication process, and product technology. But before that, you need to have at least some idea what is casting, what is forging, what is a sintering, and what is the composite materials, what is the tensile stress, grip strength. So like so many things you need to have some idea. Why? Because we don't know in which industry you are going to work. So maybe some level 3 is working in automobile industry, some people working in shipyard, some people working offshore. So they need to have some idea. So that's why in your basic examination they are asking questions from this materials and process technology. If you see the topic 3 syllabus, so they cover all these things. The next, assist in establishing the acceptance criteria when none are otherwise available. Same like a salesman, so you can suggest to your client, so which one is the best criteria, acceptance criteria. For example, if you are doing a thickness gauging on a pressure vessel, so you notice that already there is a 40% of thickness loss. So last time the thickness is 100 mm, now you've seen only like 60 mm, 40% already loss. So the client don't want to do repair, or you don't want to reject the component. So then he will come to you for a conclusion. Then being a level 3, you can tell like most of the vessels maybe they will allow only 20 to 30% wall loss, but your vessel already 40%, so it cannot withstand the required pressure. It's a safer to reject. So you can give a suggestion only. So you can only assist in establishing the acceptance criteria. You are not setting the requirements. Why? Because if something went wrong, if you say okay, then the client operate, maybe the next day the vessel needs to explode. So what happens? They will put a blame on the level 3. Your level 3 only asks us to operate. He saying nothing will happen, you can operate. That's why we operated. That's why this one happened. So sometimes something went wrong, so they will try to put a blame on the level 3. Same like a salesperson. So when you trying to purchase a mobile phone, he will suggest this particular model is very good. So if you bought that, next day some problem occurred, then the next day you run to the shop and you try to fight with that salesman. But anyhow they are like salesmen, they just only suggest only, because you are the one paymaster, you need to decide ultimately. So they can tell so many things, but you are the one need to decide, because it is your component. So that's what here always they may ask one question on this, like level 3 is not fixing the acceptance criteria, just only helping the employees or helping the clients to set the acceptance criteria, and should have a general familiarity with other appropriate entity methods. How many methods you need to have familiarity? 11 entity methods. Why? As we seen in the basic exam syllabus, so total 11 entity methods we need to study for the basic examination. So that's why they clearly saying here level 3 basic examination. So you need to have 11 methods familiarity as per the basic examination syllabus, and should have a sufficient technical knowledge and skill to be capable of training and examining level 1, level 2, level 3 personnel for certifications in those methods in which certified. For example, you become a certified UT level 3 either in-house or either ASNT NDT UT level 3. So you can issue UT level 1 certificate, UT level 2 or UT level 3 certificates. Okay, clear? Suppose in this month, maybe if you go for ASNT basic examination, so if you go for ASNT NDT level 3 basic plus you took MT level 3, then finally what happened, you will become ASNT MT level 3 and you got ASNT certificate from for this magnetic particle testing method. So in that case you already completed this, you already passed the basic exam, so you already proved that you have a familiarity with the 11 entity methods, and also you already proved that you have better understanding of materials and process technology, and also you are capable of conducting training and certifying all these things, because you passed the basic examination, you already covered SNTC1A CP189, and the topic 1 syllabus is nothing but qualification and certification program. So this one I can say this is a topic 1 syllabus, and this is topic 2 entity methods, and this is topic 3. But why they mentioned here separately? Because in SNTTC1A anyone can become in-house level 3. So if the candidate is having some level 2 experience, if they sit for in-house basic exam and if they pass in-house method exam, then they can become in-house level 3. No need to take examinations with ASNT. So your company also can conduct in-house basic and in-house method exam. If you pass, then you will become in-house level 3. Same like aerospace sector. Okay, so that's why here they are saying that candidate is capable of all these three. Okay.